Hey guys, I know it's been a while. In fact, I think it's been a few months since I last did a video. But there you go. Anyway, it's Christmas Day today, so I hope you're all out there enjoying your festivities, unwrapped all your lovely presents, and got everything that you'd hoped you'd get. And no doubt you're probably, hang on, a lot of people probably have had their Christmas dinner now, and they're probably sitting there all stuffed and down in all the booze and what have you, the Christmas hats and everything. As you can see, I've got my Christmas jumper on. There you go. Jolly face. There you go. This is my jolly face, Darth Vader face. I've got this jumper around about quite a few years ago and I've still got it. But there you go. The only day I wear it is Christmas Day. So there you go. Anyway, as you can see in the background, we've got two 380s there by the looks of it. BA and a Qatar. The big lads, as I call them. As you can see, I'm watching Big Jet TV today on Christmas Day. It's live coverage at Heathrow at the moment, and bless him, he's up there on top of the roof of the Courtyard Hotel, just by, I think, 27 left runway. As you well know, I'm a big aviation geek, and that gentleman there who's broadcasting at the moment, Jerry Dwyer from Big Jet TV, has got me heavily back into it about a year ago. And as you know, I bought a lot of airliners in my stash. It's a good channel. I'm just going to do a shout out for them because these guys just go flat out with all the coverage they do. I only pay about a membership about $1.99 a month, and they do European shows for which I can actually watch. Obviously, the higher the tier, you get more, and they also do clothing as well. You get discounts off your clothing if you go onto another tier of membership. And obviously you get the international shows that you can watch, although he does actually sort of post them later on for premier members like myself, so I can sit and watch them again. Oh, that is a big aircraft there. I can see that from the camera. Look at the size of that thing. Yeah, it's amazing that thing ever gets in the air, but there you go. And my brother actually recently flew out on one of them 2 days ago because he's out there with his partner Debbie visiting her daughter who lives and works out in Dubai. So they're having a fantastic time out there at the moment. Anyway, check out the channel. It's called Big Jet TV. As I say, you can sign up for the membership and then just subscribe to the channel on YouTube as well. So you do that. I've got an app on my phone which actually throws up the indications, notifications as to when the show is going to run and where he's coming from. He normally sort of films mostly during the year on Wednesdays and Sundays, although he does do additional shows now and again. And obviously he's doing an additional one today because he was at Heathrow yesterday for Christmas Eve, which was his scheduled Sunday. And obviously because it's Christmas Day today, he always lays on a show for Christmas Day. Bless his heart. So he's really funny. He does keep you entertained, and he's got such a quirky sense of humour. He really has me in giggles sometimes, bless him. So yeah, check the channel out if you're an aviation geek. If you're not, you can still learn a lot with all the feedback you get on the chat from people, of members, various members. There's no malicious content. There's none of this, baiting or anything like that. It's just purely for all us aviation geeks, and everything's positive and everybody treats everybody kind. So it's superb, and it does help with my mental health because I've had not the easiest of years this year. Christ, look at the way that thing's going up. Just so graceful, isn't it, eh? Anyway, I'm getting carried away watching that. It's not been the easiest year for me this year, hence why you've had a very big lack of content. And as I said, I was going to take a break anyway. Normally if the channel were normally up and running, I'd be doing me reviews of the year, but obviously, to be honest with you, I haven't actually touched a kit in 3 years. Can you believe that? I never thought I'd get to this stage, but it's the way life pans out sometimes. It was, as I say, it wasn't the best of years for 2023 for me. In fact, to be honest, this is a year I'd rather forget personally. It started out just not long after New Year with my relationship of a year breaking down. That didn't work out. So yeah, that was quite a hard time to get over, a hard thing to get over. And then 2 months down the line, my job of 22 years went because I was made redundant. And then I was unemployed for 3 months. Managed to find a job, but unfortunately it didn't work out. It wasn't the most pleasant working environment. If anything, it was very toxic, which led to me being extremely stressed and signed off with stress, and it affected my asthma. And even when I was off sick, I was being hounded by the management, and that didn't help with my mental health. Basically, because I was on my trial period, when I went back and they did their review, they decided to let me go. So I'm back where I started again. It's, as I say, it's not been the best year. So currently I'm at His Majesty's pleasure, as you could, if you could pull it like that. But I mean, I am optimistic. I mean, there is a job that is going to possibly be a strong possibility for the new year. There was one other, but I gave that a miss because, again, it would have been the same sort of scenario as it was with my previous job. A very toxic atmosphere from the feedback I read from from employees who work for this company. And I'm not going to name names because, you know, I could end up making things worse for myself. So in that regard, the other job that I went for, I must say, I think is more suited to my abilities, and I think it would be a better working environment for me. So I am hoping it's going to come off. I did chase them up the other day, but they said they've just been inundated with so many applicants. They more than they anticipated, that they will certainly get back to me as if to let me know in the new year if I've been successful or not, which I'm hoping is going to be the first, which means that I'm going to be successful because the interviews seem to go extremely well. So we shall see. But if that doesn't work out, I'm just going to keep persevering until something does come along. Then hopefully things will fall back into place. I'll get through the trial period, and I can get into a more settled pace of life once again. And then start making plans, because obviously I don't plan to stay here for the rest of my life. I was hoping intentionally, if my original job had still been going, that I would have found a place of my own and then get back on with the builds and get into a regular schedule once again with the channel. But unfortunately life hasn't worked out like that this year. So yeah, it's not been great, and as a net result of me being let go, I had to make a very, very hard decision. I made a major cull on a lot of my stash, just to keep myself going. So I've only got, well, I'd say about a third of what I had now, and that's why I thought I'd do the videos, to show you what sort of I've got left in my stash, to be honest with you. I mean, some of them you've come across before, some others you haven't, and I've had a few additions come in. But as I say, it's not been the best of years. But anyway, I'm not going to harp on about that, because I am a very optimistic person, and I'm sure, as they say, things happen in your life for a reason, and then you move on to better things. So that's the way I'm looking at it, you know, that's the way I'm looking at it. Anyway, as I said, I'm just going to show you what I've got left at the moment. As I say, when things improve, I'm hoping to get more in. Once I've got another job again, then I'll start adding to the stash again, and then I'll probably do sort of regular stash updates, as it were. But with everything that was going on in the earlier part of this year, I decided I needed a break. you know, to sort of sort my life out, get back on track. But as I say, normally if things were normal and things hadn't turned the way they had, I would have been doing regular sort of yearly review of all my builds. But I thought this would add to a bit of content. So what was to fast get my teeth back in, Stuart? So what we'll do is just run through what I've got. I mean, what I have got, I don't think I ever showed you this, even at the old place. I've got an old base here, a Linden base, which is a sort of an old Luftwaffe dispersal pen. So at some future date, when I get back on track and get the channel back on track, I'll possibly do this as a build. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be for 109, but it might be for any other sort of aircraft, possibly. But the detail on it is absolutely superb. I mean, you've got resin parts for all the barrels and fuel containers and weapons boxes, etc. in there, all in resin. Which is really, it's got some really lovely detail on it. And then obviously you've actually got the base itself, which I will just get out, and you can actually see the detail on it. So I'll just get it out of the bubble wrap. There you go, look at that. I mean, you've even got the wood grain on the actual base itself. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. It's absolutely exquisite. And obviously, because Linden are now defunct, because the guy who ran it decided to retire and not continue with the business, these are highly sought after now. And I bought this when the actual company was still going, which must have been about, what, 8 years ago when I first started the channel up. You know, I was lucky enough to come across this on eBay, so I snapped it up at the time, and I've held on to it ever since. So I aim to hang on to it now, even more now that Linden are no longer in being. I did have an Apollyon. I did have a little sort of 8mm figure of Napoleon, but he had to go. Which is a shame because the film's just come out and I'm dying to see it, so we will see. Anyway, the other one, it's an iconic aircraft of the airline industry, which recently was majorly retired from most airlines following the pandemic, is this kit, which I don't think is in production anymore. Because when this came out, it was celebrating its 50th anniversary, and that is, of course, the iconic 747, and this was the 100 version, done in the markings of the actual prototype. But as I said on previous occasion, this build was going to be the first build project I would do after I finished the Wessex and the other diorama, which I think my brother's going to do now. But the Wessex he's keeping in hand for when I get back up and running. And I did get a set of decals for it because I'm going to do this as a Pan Am Jumbo, but I'm actually going to do it as Flight 103, which, as we well know, tragically was blown up over Lockerbie by a bomb from a Libyan terrorist, and there was a tragic loss of life in the town as well as the actual passengers and air crew on board. So I was going to do that as a tribute build, and apparently it is the 35th anniversary of it this year. So yes, I remember that too. And it was the Clipper Ocean of the Seas Jumbo. So I'm going to do it in the markings of that aircraft, and this is from 26 decals. Now I'm not sure if they still print these, so they tend to do a limited run on most decals. But yeah, it's just an iconic scheme, and it was actually the first airline to operate the Jumbo in as well, back in 1970 I think it was. So yeah, there is quite a lot of flash on the kit, which obviously we're going to have to work on. And I've got an interior detail set as well, so it's just on one of the doorways. So I've got that in, and actually it was primarily designed, the actual aftermarket edge set was primarily designed for the old Airfix kit, but I think I'll probably cannibalise it into this one. And then I've got another one again, but this time I'm going to do it in the markings of the old Boac jumbo. I just think it's such an iconic scheme, and it's a beautifully smart scheme. So that was when the jumbo first went into operation, I think about 1971, because there was a bit of a delay on getting them into service. So yeah, I just love the colour scheme. It just looks so smart. And obviously, as we well know, one of the actual jumbo 400 jumbos was actually decked out in that colour scheme for their I think 100th anniversary. They did do some iconic schemes, including the A319 and the old BEA scheme. I have got that still somewhere, but I can't remember where I've stashed it away, unfortunately, so I'm not going to be able to show you that one. But it's the old Revell 320 100. Or was it A319 100 in the old BEA scheme, and apparently she is languishing out in Spain now in storage. I hope to God they're going to preserve her, because she's the last of the retro birds that BA had. And as we well know, sadly, the old Boac jumbo was scrapped, which I personally think is disgusting, because it was the last jumbo of BA to fly. And the company that had promised to preserve her suddenly backed off. And I am absolutely appalled at the fact that they've scrapped her. Thankfully, the other two are still in existence, which is the Landor scheme and also I think the Trafalgar one. They're both sitting at Dunsfold, which unfortunately is no longer an operational airfield. It's going to become a housing estate, sadly, like most of the former airfields that we've had, including the former Vickers airfield at Wisley. They're going to turn that into a housing estate, and apparently my brother actually went over there about 6 months ago, and they started ripping up the runway and building near it, which is a great shame. He was walking through, and then they suddenly told him that he was no longer allowed to walk on the premises, which is a shame, because there's a lot of aviation heritage at Wisley. And I can actually remember as a kid when we used to drive up the old A1, I think it was the A1, can't remember, B3291 or something like that, seeing the old VC10s on the Perry track waiting to go off, and with that large hangar sitting on there, you know. Sadly, that big large hangar was knocked down in 1982, so all that was left was the actual runway and Perry tracks and everything. Even the control tower was demolished. So that was a great shame, because I think that could have had a potential as a museum, looking back on it now, but they didn't think of it at the time. So there you go. Anyway, the only other jumbo I've got, which I will probably deck out in the old Trafalgar scheme, because I've actually got the decals for it. Actually, funny enough, that's in the book, and I didn't think to bring them out, is Revell's old Ed Force 1 jumbo, and sadly that was also scrapped at Athens most recently. So that aircraft sadly no longer exists. It's all became scrap metal, and in fact I think the last jumbo has just recently been scrapped. So yeah, I think they were a bit hasty in removing the jumbos now, because they're getting other airlines to do their flights for them, and they needn't have done it, you know, but there you go. But again, this is a lovely kit. I've got an extra detail set for it as well, and I'm going to do it in its last colour scheme with BA. So yeah, that should be good. There are still a few of these available, but you're going to have to pay through the nose if you want to bid for them. That's the problem. I did have a Dash 8, but unfortunately I had to sell that. Well, in fact I had two of them, But I've still got the decal set for the retro Lufthansa scheme. So as and when I get back on track, I shall order that in again, and possibly get the cargo version as well. So yeah. Another one I've still got is the old Zvezda Ilyushin IL-76 transport aircraft. That is a gorgeous kit. The detail on it is excellent, especially in the cargo bay. I mean, this is what it looks like when it's obviously built up. And I know some of you are saying, why is he putting a Russian aircraft up, considering what's going on in Ukraine? I'm not supporting what they represent. I just look at the engineering side of the aircraft itself, and it is an iconic aircraft, no matter what you may think. It's an aircraft of the Cold War era, and it stands up in history, despite what it may well represent. But to be honest with you, if you're going to start getting on the bandwagon about politics, don't. All right. I look at this as a hobby. I look at this subject as part of my hobby. And it's like if anybody was building Luftwaffe aircraft. Do we kick up about that? No, we don't. So there you go. That's my prime example. At the end of the day, it's not so much what it represents, it's the engineering side of it. And it is an iconic aircraft. And this is a lovely, lovely kit of it. I think they do other versions of the IL-76 as well, like the water carrier and the one with the big radar dish on the back. So yeah, so that's that one. Well, these are the most recent additions I've actually got in. I did sell off all my Concords, but I decided to get this one back in because I know it's going out of production soon. I aim to get another one before it's done, because I'm going to do one in this scheme, and then I'm going to do one in the prototype scheme. In fact, I might get two more, because I'm going to do one of a French prototype and then one of the British prototype. So there you go. So yeah, I love it, the fact that Airfix are reissuing these. I really do. But as I say, there's still a few available, but I've got a feeling they've stopped production of them. So there you go. This is a recent one I got in, and I've started getting a fascination for Swiss aircraft now, or Swedish aircraft. And Hanair have rebranded themselves because I think they've been brought out by a German sponsor, and I quite like their new boxes. And they have actually brought out a range of their classics, and this is one of them is the Saab Tunnen. I've had a look at the inside of it. The details are mainly raised, but I'm sure you could sand it down and just basically rescribe it. But basically, it looks a neat little kit of a very iconic Cold War aircraft. So I've got that, and also alongside it, I've got the Lanson as well. That's not a bad kit either. Probably needs a little bit of aftermarket for the cockpit. But again, it's got a few raised panel lines, but again, you can actually sand that down and just rescribe it. But it is a neat looking aircraft. I just love it. And I'm hoping to get the I'm hoping to get one of the Draken, and then obviously I've got the two versions, which in special hobby with the Viggen. That's the single seater and the two seater, and they do the recon version, so I might get all three of those as well at some future date. Then following on from that, there was a couple of kits I had to sell. I brought them back in again, and again I aim to get the air group of the old Ark Royal 4, the old R09 flat top from the 70s. Sadly, I had to cull those, and I was getting the air group for the Eagle in her last year as well, which is her sister ship. But yeah, as I say, needs must, and I had to cull them, so they got sold on. But with Airfix reissuing the Phantom FGR1 now stroke 2, I managed to get one in. And actually, believe it or not, I think that's the markings of the one that's at the Royal Air Force Museum in Hendon. and she is the actual aircraft that was the all cock and brown aircraft at the Agreement and Common air tattoo in '79. So I've still got the decals for it. I'll probably get another one of these in at some stage when I get back on track and do it in that. But this one's going to be the one based on Art Royal. And funnily enough, if you look at the actual schemes you're offering you've got one of a Phantom from 892 Squadron when they did a sort of a swap over on an American aircraft carrier deck in '77. Well, actually, it's based on the art when she was on her last commission in 1978. So I've managed to get some aftermarket decals for that because I'm actually going to do it in that one. But I should do it in the scheme that it was in when she was on her last deployment before they actually put it on that one. But again, it's an awesome looking kit. The detail on it is absolutely superb and very much the quality of the one that I was building. And if you remember, that one was short moulded, sadly. And I had to stop the build. I think that was for the GB build some years ago. But I'm glad I got it back in. Let's put it like that. I'm glad they reissued the Phantom, actually, to be honest with you, because it's such an iconic aircraft. And then alongside that, I've got the old Buccaneer S2C as well. Again, lovely kit, superb detail, and from what I've heard of the build, it is a beautiful kit that really goes together well. And as I say, you've got it in the markings of 809 Squadron, which was based on the old Ark, or you've got 800 Squadron, which was on the final deployment of Eagle's deployment. I'll probably get another one of these in, but these are getting harder and harder to get hold of because I've got a feeling they're actually going to stop production of this one as well. Because obviously you can still get the 48th kit, which is issued, and I think they're bringing out the RAF version come the new year as well. So yeah. By the way, if you got it in 72nd or even 48th, they are awesome looking kits. And Airfix have really upped their game. They really have. Anyway, the one that I've always wanted and I've waited over 2 years to get hold of when it was first issued is the most iconic British bomber that we had in the 60s and the 70s. And obviously, as you know, it was used against the Black Buck raid during the Falklands War, which was its only time it was ever used in anger. And that is, of course, this bad boy, the old Vulcan B2. And I have to say, hats off to Airfix again, because the way they've engineered this kit with the wing spar and the bomb bay and everything else is superb. It needed it because the old one was an absolute filler queen. Although there's still some out there of the old mould. But I'm glad I got it. I really am. I mean, I would love to get hold of the Victor and the Valiant before they go out of production. Because all three of them are just such iconic aircraft of that Cold War era. And when the British aircraft industry was at its best, to be honest with you. And you know what? The prototype of this only flew 5 years after the Lancaster. Yeah, it came. You know, that shows you how fast the actual aviation industry came on after the war with leaps and bounds. But this is the most iconic, beautiful, immensely huge aircraft that I love. And as you see from my previous video when I was at Hendon, you can see how big that thing is. It's just immense. It really is. Anyway, the last two, plus one, which I got as a Christmas present from my dear friend Brittany Abinader, as she spoils me every Christmas and every birthday. I mean, the one she got me for my birthday I think it was Christmas last year, was this, and I love me Porsches. It's the old Porsche 911 Turbo. I did have the most recent ones that they reissued, but sadly they had to be cold. But this one is a lovely kit. I haven't done a car kit before, but I just love the old 911 Turbo. In fact, I think my old mate Alan Harrington, he was lucky enough to get a Porsche Targa lent to him one time. And yeah, that thing's got some kick in it. But the only thing he said to me was that his feedback from the car was that it was heavy on the steering. That's the only thing. But it's an iconic car of the 80s, that one. It really is. And the other one she got me for my birthday, I think last year. And this is, I was so pleased I got this. Is this lovely iconic aircraft of the Cold War as well. I think they went out of, the last ones flew in December 2013, or was it 2015? I think it was 2013. With an 8-ship formation, and it's of course the Harrier GR7 GR9 from Hobby 2000. Now this is the reboxed Hasegawa kit, and it's an aircraft. It's a favourite of mine, to be honest, and I must admit I wouldn't mind getting hold of Airfix's 1/24 GR1. So yeah, it's a lovely kit as well. I mean, yeah, I'm going to have to get some aftermarket in for the cockpit and maybe some other details, but basically the kit itself is a beauty. So I was very, very grateful that Brit got me this one. So yeah, that's that really. And then finally, I've actually had the Christmas present, which I'm going to open up today, believe it or not, and show you what she's got me. I know what it is, and it's an aircraft that I do like, and it's actually on there as well. I think, are there any in there? No, I can't see any there at the moment. I think he's gone off to get a coffee. We get his lunch. So yeah, what we got? I've got the box here. I've had to put the sticky label over the address because I don't want it to my personal address details to be seen. So I'm just going to go and get a knife, and then I'm going to open it up and show you what she's actually got me. So let's just see. Oh, there's a few other things I've got as well, which I'm going to show you. A few books that I've got in. Actually got them at a steal. Here we go. So yeah, in fact one of them turned out. I'll have to chase them up at that. Yeah, here we go. I've got a few books. Before we open the present up, I'm going to show you these books as well. So this one I saw very dirt cheap for around about a £5, and that is The Forgotten Voices of the Somme. Actually, it was £4. It was in the workshop. So I went and got myself that, and the reason I got that is because my grandfather actually fought in the Battle of the Somme. So this is the personal accounts of people who were actually involved and survived that battle and the war. So there you go. And this one is actually a fictional one based on true events about a soldier who ends up going AWOL and ends up in the where is it? I think it's in no man's land with a group of rebel soldiers. So that should be quite a good read. And then this one is of a soldier who was a late relation to the author, and he was trying to find out about his uncle Albert, who went missing during the First World War on the Western Front, and he managed to actually find, I think they actually managed to trace his remains in the end and his war record and bring him home. So that is going to be a very interesting read. And then this one, it's one of two, because the other one I think is delayed until possibly Wednesday, is The Fleet Air Arm in Focus. This is the first part one, which I think is about the operations during the Second World War. And it just guides you through the history of the Fleet Air Arm, the carriers, etc. So it's quite highly good photographs there. So if you're actually doing a model of one of these carriers, you can actually get some reference material here. So yeah, it should be a good book to look through actually. And it's all through the Second World War, that one. But the other one is actually post-war, which is that one, which is what I'm waiting for, is part 2. So yeah, that should be quite interesting, that one. And then this book I got for about £4 off a book site online. It's about HMS Belfast. It's called The Last Big Gun. At War and at Sea, HMS Belfast, by Brian Lavery. So that should be quite a fascinating book to read, that one. And I've actually toured all over her. It took me 4 hours, believe it or not. And then we got the Fleet Air Armour Handbook from 1939 to 45. Again, very comprehensive, with all the ships and the operations that happened through the course of the Second World War in terms of the Fleet Air Arm. So yeah, that should be an interesting read. And this particular one is going to be a favourite of mine because it's of that Ark Royal I was mentioning, Ark Royal 4 with the old Phantoms and Buccaneers. This actually is more comprehensive than the book I actually bought many years ago on the history of the actual Ark. It takes you right to the time she was built. As you can see there, that's Swan Hunter. I think it was Swan Hunter. Oh no, Camel Laird. Obviously taking you through to her launch in 1950, I think it was, or 51. And obviously takes you through all the various commissions, through the 50s, through the 60s. Some really good photographs here, obviously of her operational deployments and commissions. It looks a really comprehensive book, actually, really comprehensive, and obviously takes you right up to her last commission in 78. And she was just such a beautiful looking ship. It's a damn shame that, you know, the people who were trying to raise the money to preserve her didn't, unfortunately, because she was the last conventional fixed-winged aircraft carrier we had. And I don't know if any of you remember the series Sailor. I mean, there you are. That's a good shot of the 2 hangars below deck with the aircraft being maintained. So yeah. What else? Oh, I remember this from the series Sailor, where they were trying to rescue a guy who had, I think, a burst appendix, and he ended up going into the sea, and they actually managed to get him out on board the actual Sea King eventually. That was one of the episodes from Sailor. Yeah, there's another guy there from the series. This is the size comparison compared to the US aircraft carriers at the time. Look at that. That one beside her is just monstrous. Yeah. Oh, this was during her final commission, and this was during the review of the fleet in 1977 during the Silver Jubilee. Just those graceful, beautiful looking lines. There's a lovely shot of the Phantom going on the waist cap there. Full reheat as well. Awesome. In fact, that's the actual scheme I'm planning to do my markings in for the Phantom. Even Prince Charles during the last commission was on a Buccaneer, catapulted off the ship. Well, our king now, King Charles, if you know what I mean. So yeah, and that's a lovely iconic shot of her as well. Look at that, awesome. So yeah, it was a sad day when she pulled in for the last time. This is when she came in on at Plymouth that November, 1978. And then she was left with a skeletal crew, and then eventually they towed her out, just laid her in port waiting to be scrapped. As you can see, well, this is when she was being towed up to Camel Laird to be scrapped. And then ironically there was a Sea Harrier flew past as a tribute to her. That was in 1980, I think. And then there's the very sad sight at the end where she's being scrapped. You know, Mind you, it took them a good 3 years to scrap her, because I mean that shows you how well built she was. And there's the remaining anchor, which is now at the museum at Yeovilton, along with Eagle's anchor as well. So yeah, that's quite a lovely book on her. And then obviously I've got one on HMS Fearless some months ago, the Mighty Lion, which I was going to use for reference material for the Airfix one that had been reissued. Yeah, I had to sell that as well, but I will get that back because I've always wanted that kit of the Fearless. And again, you've got a nice comprehensive index, etc., about her career, the various commissions that she went on during the 60s and early 70s, etc., photographs, etc., right up until her very final commission. But again, it was a shame they scrapped her, because she was the last steam turbine ship of the Royal Navy. And not only that, she was also the ship where they actually signed the surrender at port, I think one of the Sounds at the end of the Falklands War. So I personally think she should have been preserved as part of our national heritage. But both her and Intrepid were scrapped at the same time, sadly. Anyway, enough of that waffle. Now we're going to open up the Christmas present that Brittany got me. So let's just see. Let's just unseal it. I hope I've got this right. Oh, hang on. No, I think here we go. Here we go. Just unseal the sides here. See what she's got us. Oh yeah, this is going to add to my airliner stash. This is really going to add to my airliner stash. Oh, if I can get the damn thing out of the box. Hang on. Oh, cracking, I've certainly kept this packed inside, didn't I tell you? Oh. Ah, here we go. That's it. Right, it is the Zvezda Boeing 7878. So thanks, Britt. I really appreciate that, my love. And yeah, I've got a colour scheme I'm going to do that in, actually. I might do it in the old Air Canada scheme, the old Trash Panda scheme, as the air crews call it. So yeah, either that or the BA. So I'll get some extra detail set to go with it as well, just to add enhanced detail. And again, thank you so much, Britt. I really appreciate it, my love. Thank you very, very much. That girl's always so thoughtful and kind. She really is. Oh, funny enough, there's a Virgin one landing in the background there, look. How about that for our ironic finish to the actual video? So there you go. There you got a Virgin 7878, which has just touched down at Heathrow. Well, well, well. How about that? And that ironic. I've opened the box up the kit, and there's one landing at Heathrow. Crikey. Well, well, well. There you go. Anyway, that's where I'm going to finish, guys, because we're running up to about 44 minutes on this video. I think it's the longest video I've ever done, to be honest with you. So all that remains for me to say is, I raise a glass to you all. Have a nice, peaceful and safe Christmas, and a fantastic and most prosperous New Year to you all. And I wish you all the best wherever you are. So, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Oh yeah, that does hit the spot. And from me and Jerry, get kit crazy, happy modelling, stay safe, and have a good one. And I'll see you soon. Cheers. Bye.